Hello everyone, this is Caleb Simpson, and you are watching my 100% walkthrough for The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword for Nintendo Wii. We have just entered the Earth Temple, and even though they use the word Earth, it's totally a fire temple. You want to continue onwards, and there is several platforms here you can jump across. There's lots of fire keys here. Now remember, if you have the iron shield, you definitely want to have that equipped, because your wooden shield will definitely burn up here. If you did not want to purchase the iron shield, you can just, unequip your wooden shield. You still have it in your inventory, but just unequip it, and then that way it doesn't burn accidentally. Go up to the right and there is some soft soil that leads to a small chest containing 20 rupees. So Nintendo is really fond of having character names and locations and stuff like that for a lot of their games, which are, I guess some of their games, not all their games, but like a lot of games they make, a lot of the characters have words that are like wordplay or whatever. They're like a play on words, they're puns, so to speak. So like this character, for example, is a magma. He's all about dirt and stuff like that, and his name is Cobal. So C-O-B-A-L is how it's spelled, which is obviously a reference to cobblestone, C-O-B-B-L-E. Anyway, so in that example, like that's part of why I'm pronouncing it that way. I suppose you could pronounce it Cobal or something like that, but I'm sure it's supposed to be pronounced Cobble because of what it's referencing. Anyways, Nintendo does that kind of stuff a lot. They do it like Pokemon is notorious for this, for example. Like the characters' names is like a mixture of two different words typically is how all the Pokemon names are. And sometimes they end up retranslating it for the English localization. Other times they just leave it as Japanese pronunciations. And that's why sometimes some of the names don't really make sense in English, but if you read it in Japanese, it's obviously a reference to two specific words. Like Geodude, for example, is a reference to rock and dude, you know. Anyways, so in other words, it's like Rockman is what that means, literally. Continuing on, you want to jump to these stone platforms and just wait for the first one to be lower. I think you can't grab onto it when you just jump to it. The lip of it doesn't work. I think you have to jump onto it. So wait for it to be low and then work your way onward. There is several of these ropes we need to smack, and you can actually use Skyward Strikes on these too, as opposed to just regular sword slashes, and that works. Now, unfortunately, you will notice that this doesn't quite get the bridge all the way lowered, and that is because there is one more of these ropes we need to snap. Now, there is actually one other goodie you can get. There is actually some rupees on top of this wall here, so I'm actually going to grab that first. And I was hoping that I could actually grab it and then swing around and get the rope as well, but I couldn't quite reach far enough. But do grab those rupees before you continue on too much further. Up ahead, Fi gives you a quick, friendly reminder that you can always use Z and then target enemies and then press down on the D-pad to get helpful tips from her. Of course, that is not necessary because you have me. So here we have some Lizalfos, which actually breathe fire, which is kind of weird because in past Zelda games we had Lizalfos and then we had Dinofoals, which were a different enemy that would breathe fire, and they looked a little bit differently. But anyways, so this is a Lizalfos and it breathes fire. I guess that's not entirely true though. We had the Goron Mines and Twilight Princess and Lizalfos, which look totally different in that game. They also breathe fire. So maybe they're just not going to have Dinofoals at all moving forward. Shield bashes work really good against Lizalfos, but you can also, if you accidentally hit their defenses, they will counterattack, and it's kind of funny, you actually can counter their counters. If you shield bash after it counterattacks, you can counter them. But anyways, usually the best way to deal with them is if you keep being aggressive and attacking them, they'll eventually defend like this and waggle their tongue at you like that. When they're doing that, they're always defending from one direction. If you attack them from one of the other directions, in this case he was defending up, I attacked him from below, it knocked him to the ground. When they're on the ground, you can do a fatal blow. The first time he was in the wall, so I couldn't do it, but the second time I was able to do it, and fatal blows will kill Lizalfos instantly, so it's great. So if you can manage to either spin attack them or attack them aggressively with your sword, and once they defend, then attack them from a vulnerable side, you can actually defeat them very quickly. So Lizalfos are one of the few enemies in the game that always drop treasure. So they always drop a Lizalfos tail. We would need, I think, 6 total, I think it is off the top of my head, so you want to make sure you pick up all the Lizalfos tails you can. So make sure you do that. There is some nearby soft soil, and if you dig it up, you will find some Elden ore. But the other nearby soft soil actually has Deku Seeds in it, and this is to allow you to use your slingshot to shoot the nearby bomb flowers that are on the statue. This will blow it up and will allow you to access this eyeball, which you can then use to roll around in the lava. Now, alternatively, you can actually smack those bomb flowers with the beetle, and that would also work. So if you don't want to do the slingshot, or you find it easier to use the beetle, or you're out of Deku Seeds for some reason, even though that nearby soft soil location had it, then that's another alternative for you. You can defeat magma spumes by just rolling over them with that boulder, although I think it's a lot easier actually to stun them first with a slingshot. It guarantees that they won't run away, and then it makes it very easy to just defeat them that way. So up ahead we have Ledd, and as I was explaining before, the characters' names are all plays on various words, so his name is spelled L-E-D-D, but it's obviously a reference to lead the metal, L-E-A-D. So all of these magmas have names that are related to earthy things, or things that are found in the earth anyway. So apparently those red creeps stole Ledd's bomb bag, and so we definitely want that. Now you'll notice that we can't actually get past these rocks, though. I don't know how the Lizalfos even got in there. Did they cave it in afterwards? Whatever. You want to crawl through the hole off to the left, and in this case I just rolled through it, and then you'll find a bunch of bomb flowers. So use one of the bomb flowers, roll it along the path, and this will cause it to blow up the nearby rocks. At this point, you should be pretty full on health, but just make sure that you have enough health to deal with this upcoming mini-boss battle. We have 2 Lizalfos to deal with at once. I don't really think it's that big a deal, but there is a fairy outside that you can get here in a little bit, and I'll show that after we exit this room, so just stay tuned if you want to see how to get that before you enter this room. As soon as you enter, you jump across here, and this will actually cause a short cinematic in which the Lizalfos run forward. There is actually a trick to like shooting one of them with a slingshot, so it's stunned right before you jump over, and this will cause the cinematic not to play. I like how these 2 enemies are mirrored. I actually don't think it matters. I don't think it changes how they defend. I'm pretty sure that this one, even though it has it like on its right side, its armored defenses, I think it still defends from the left, so it doesn't really matter too much. Make sure that whenever you defeat one of these guys that you always pick up the Lizalfos tail. Here I'm recalibrating real quick. But something I think is really, really cool is that these Lizalfos actually alternate attacking you. Like one of them will hide out in the background and will hang out on one of these far platforms and taunt at you, while the other one is fighting you. So they just switch back and forth. So if you take too long, actually they'll just keep swapping out over and over again, which I think is super cool. And also the fact that this particular room has a bunch of hexagon shapes and a bunch of lava spewing up in the background, because this is very reminiscent of a battle we fought very similar to this with some Lizalfos in Ocarina of Time in Dodongo's Cavern. There's 2 battles in fact, and the arena looked very similar to this, and the enemies behaved the same way. So I just think that's so cool. Like, what an attention to detail, or like, I don't know, it's like a reimagining of that same battle, and I think that's really awesome. I was trying to show shield bashing one of these enemies, but he keeps just breathing fire and stuff instead. I'm trying to like draw this battle out a little bit just to show like different techniques for fighting these guys. But normally I can defeat them pretty fast. Like you saw that first one, I took it out really quickly. So I could just flip this guy upside down real quick and then just use a fatal blow on him, but I'm trying to draw this out a little bit, but he keeps running away from me. So I've mentioned this earlier in the walkthrough, but you can also pick up like rupees and hearts and stuff like that, as well as treasure, honestly, with your sword. So I was really close to the lava and I didn't want to jump across, so I'm trying to just smack it with my sword, and I eventually got it before it disappeared. Once you've defeated both of those Lizalfos, go ahead and open the chest that appears to find the bomb bag. So at the very beginning of this dungeon, you could have optionally gone off to the left and spoken with Cobal, which I did, but I was spending that entire time talking about his name. But the things that Cobal said is he was just reminding you that we were here at the Earth Temple because we're searching for Zelda. And so he was just talking about that at the time, and also mentioning that he got separated from his friend, referring to Ledd. So Ledd is here, we just got his bomb bag and we're bringing it back to him, and so Ledd now asks you about Cobal, asking if you have seen him yet or whatnot, and regardless of what you say, the outcome will still be the same. Whenever Skyward Sword presents you with these optional, like, multi-choice questions, if it's like 4 options, usually those are important, like for mini-games, stuff like that. But otherwise, for dialogue choices like this, whenever it has like 3 or more options, or yes, whenever it has like 3 options, it usually doesn't matter at all. You can choose any of them. I do like to choose, in this particular example, I like to choose Worried, for example, because Ledd just has a more sympathetic answer for you. But otherwise, it doesn't really matter at all. I do try to do the funny ones whenever I can. If there's one that's really humorous, I'll do that. Whenever I looked at Skyward Sword as an option to do, I always kind of thought to myself that it would be really cool if I could like record all the different conversation options for the characters, like play through the game multiple times and record it, but like that's a lot of work. And I just thought, at the time I thought it'd be cool because it'd be like a selling feature, like this is why people would watch my videos instead of somebody else's or something like that. But I don't know, I look at it now and I just think like that's just a huge waste of time, because I could spend that same amount of time playing through a game. I could play through a totally different game, start recording that one, and start working on a whole nother walkthrough. So I'd rather just do that, you know? Anyway, Ledd has now given us the bomb bag, as well as he gives us 5 bombs just to get it started. And that's actually like all you need for the next little while, technically, to move forward. However, I do like to stock up on bombs, and I would recommend you do this whenever you can. So roll back in through this little area, and you can pick up the bombs and then press B to put them in your bomb bag. And actually what happens is it takes them a second to reappear. So if you can, if there's 2 bombs that are right next to each other, you can just alternate back and forth and pick them up. Now nearby there is a ladder, and you can climb up, and if you crawl across to this other area, there's actually this little ledge you can go on, and it leads to some soft soil, and then there is usually some Elden ore inside one of them, but the other one has a fairy, so just make sure you're not standing too close, but then you can go ahead and scoop that up into a bottle if you have one available. At think this idea is so fascinating because we've had bomb flowers in previous Zelda titles, but it's like you use them and then at a certain point you finally get access to the bomb bag and then it makes bomb flowers completely worthless at that point. So you never need them again. But in this case, like actually whenever you do see bomb flowers, you're all excited and you go to them and use them to replenish your stock. So it's just really cool. It's actually technically a very similar mechanic to how they have jars with bombs in them anyways in other Zelda games. And we actually technically have that in this game too to replenish bombs as well. That's more so in a future zone. So next, head to the central platform where you can save here if you like, and our next objective is actually to get the dungeon maps. Now the dungeon map in all the dungeons in Skyward Sword is totally optional, but it gives you some very good tips on how to progress in the dungeon. So if you actually know where to go already, you don't need the dungeon map at all, and because you're following me, you don't have to go get this. So that all being said, the rest of this particular video is going to be me getting the dungeon map, and then getting a bunch of optional treasure that are in these various rooms nearby. So I'm going to do that, and that's all we had to do for this particular video. So if you are not interested in optional treasure, and you're not interested in the dungeon map, you can just skip ahead to the next video. So from the central platform, you want to use bombs on the nearby rocks off to the left side. So do so, and then after that blows up, we have a Lizalfos across the way, and unfortunately it will attack you if you get too close. If you try to jump across, it'll smack you and you'll land in the lava. It's sad. But instead, one thing you can do is you can actually throw a bomb across the way, and I usually like to do it either a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right, and this allows it to, like the Lizalfos will look at it, and so it doesn't smack you when you jump across. So in this case, I threw it off to the right, and then I jumped to the left side, and then I could fight the Lizalfos. The Lizalfos itself is actually optional, you can just run past it. However, if you defeat it, you'll get a Lizalfos tail, and we want as many of those as we can right now, so I'd recommend you defeat it. You'll notice too, I actually circled around a little bit because I wanted to make sure that its back was to the wall, so that when it died, the Lizalfos tail didn't land in the lava instead. I think this part's kind of weird. Like, apparently this Bokoblin was on the ground vulnerable to a fatal blow, but apparently that animation also makes it invulnerable to bomb explosions, which is kind of weird. You'd think it'd be the opposite. Right before I continued onward, I noticed an amber relic in the corner, and I wanted to go get that first. I actually am going to head over there and dig up the soft soil locations before we leave this room, but I just was doing that because it's kind of the principle of the thing. I recommend if you ever see amber relics off in a corner, they're often like on top of statues and things like that. If you ever see an amber relic, I recommend you go get it. These magma spumes that are in the lava can be defeated pretty easily using Skyward Strikes if you have to, but otherwise another good way of dealing with them is you can hit them with a slingshot to stun them for a little bit just so you can ignore them. But otherwise, another good method of dealing with them, the best method, is just to blow them up with a single bomb. That works great, as long as you're not too close, otherwise the explosion can hit you. But generally speaking, we have more than enough bombs. So, as long as you don't get hurt by it, there's no reason not to use bombs. We get so many bomb flowers in this dungeon in particular that it's definitely the best way of dealing with them. So once you finally get to the end of the room, you can ride the stone platform to get up on top of this platform up here where there is a bunch of Bokoblins. Now you can defeat them, and you can actually knock them into the lava if you like, especially with spin attacks. However, I generally try to avoid that and just make sure I kill them up on this platform if I can, because in case they drop some ornamental skulls, I want to get them. So this dungeon map, as with all of the dungeons in Skyward Sword, gives you a big tip on how to progress forward. It has an X on the map that tells you where to go, which is very handy. But you might have noticed this if you were super observant, but there is actually some cracks in the wall there, in the lava. But it's kind of interesting because you can use bombs while you're on top of the rolling boulder as well. There's a bunch of different areas in the various dungeons that I think are like missed opportunities for treasure to be, and in this particular room, for example, there's like a metal awning thing that's above us, and it's like dilapidated and falling apart. But I feel like it would have been a great place to put like an amber relic up there or something like that, but Nintendo did not do that. Now, on the way back, you don't have to defeat all the enemies. I went to both sides, and you don't have to do this at all. I'm just showing it as an option. Again, bombs are the best way to deal with magma spumes. It just defeats them really quickly. Now, lastly, there is some soft soil locations here, and I think one of them just has like hearts and stuff, but the rest of them could potentially give you elven ore. Or at least that's how it's supposed to be. Like, man, I swear, like, from digging, usually at this point you should have had, like, somewhere between, like, 4 and 6 is pretty typical, I think. There is a chance that you have better luck than that, but I just have not dug up any. I don't know what's going on. Well, I did get a couple from chests, and that's true for, like, everybody. There's some random chance on some of those, and some of those chests are guaranteed to always be elven ore, so I've gotten those so far, but all of my digging has been pretty bad so far. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hop back on the boulder, and you can use it to reach the 2 platforms that are in the top left corner and the bottom left corner of this particular room. So the one in the top left corner, I'm going to head through this little like slit here in the bridge, and you can go through any of these bigger areas right here. Defeat the magma spumes along the way, and then there's a large chest here containing a rare treasure. Now in my case, this was just a blue feather, which is honestly probably the treasure I'm the least excited for. I can get those in Faerun, no problem, and we're going to head back there soon anyways. But otherwise, what I really would have liked is a goddess plume. So if I'd gotten that, that would have been really great. Or like a golden skull would be pretty good too. So dig up the soft soil, and I got some Elden ore. Yes! And then continue on to the far bottom left corner as well. So before continuing onward, there is actually one other thing to comment on in this area. There is these pegs that are up against this upcoming bridge, and you can like press it into it with the boulder. Actually, you can roll into that, and it will press it in, and it will actually lift that bridge a little bit. We don't have to do that right now, though. You have to do it later, but you can optionally press that in right now because we can access that peg. So you can do that if you want to. I'm going to ignore it for now. And continuing onwards, there is this platform. What I really want to do is I want to throw a bomb flower on it, but unfortunately the keys was coming at me, and so it blew me up instead. But I was just like panicking because the platform was low, so I was trying to do this right away. So the deal with this is you want to wait until the platform is actually like sitting down for a little bit. I threw it way too soon, and unfortunately I wasn't able to throw it fast enough, and this hurt me again. So just being impatient. So anyways, you wait for the platform to get all the way down, wait for a second, and then throw the bomb. And I like to try and throw it towards this side a little bit so that in case the, at least I'm not actually sure if the bomb can slip between the wall and the platform. I'm not sure. And I'm not sure what happened there either. This island's trying to kill me, I swear, guys. I think what happened is I had the bomb in my hand, and then when the cinematic started, it dropped out of my hand, or I couldn't put it in my bomb bag fast enough, and so it blew up right after the cinematic ended, is I think what happened. I'm not sure. Regardless, yes, this island is death. There's also a bunch of soft soil here, and you can dig that up to hopefully get some Elden ore. I think, again, I didn't really get anything super exciting. Now, if some rupees land in the lava, I think they just plop away. So I try to face towards the wall if I can to hopefully not have anything bad happen to me. Now, this heart, for example, I was going to try and slash it with my sword, but I was not anywhere near fast enough. You actually can swap to the beetle really quick, and you can get stuff that falls in the lava, but you gotta be fast, though, because it sinks really quick. I think at this point I was thinking to myself, like, okay, that's it. Like, I'm trying to be efficient and stuff like that, but apparently I'm just making things worse. So I'm just going to take it really, really slow and careful and wait for this platform to get all the way down flush before I jump to it. See, it's totally fine. Life is good. Anyways, this chest has a medium-grade treasure, I believe. Oh, never mind. That's a rare treasure as well. So this is what I was talking about a little bit ago. A golden skull. They can very rarely pop off of bokoblins. It doesn't happen very often. I'm not aware of there being a particular type of bokoblin that are the only ones that make them appear. I think any of them can. It's just a very rare chance. So having the treasure medal would help a lot to make you able to see those more often. But yeah, so those two chests apparently have rare treasure, which is super valuable. So I highly recommend you get those, especially if you're going to be trying to craft all your gear. It helps a lot. Otherwise, you can technically sell them for rupees, I suppose. But yeah, so that's the end of this video, folks. Join me for the next one where we will continue on with the main quest now that we know where to go within the Earth Temple. What are we doing? Is it just that it's hot? Oops. Let's just for fun. Make more fire. Quick, quick. I know it's over. It doesn't matter. I was curious if they would burn. Like, I would set it down in front of one of them and he'd just be like, but that didn't happen. It was just a stage thing. Oh, those are still burning. Wow, look at that. Do they burn up? I mean, normally they stop being on fire. I need more. More wood! More fire! We need more wood. This guy is on fire. Yes. So epic, brother. What a powerful display. What fire. That was something else. So hot. What a hot beat.